All right, you guys, what is happening, everybody? Good evening, and welcome back or welcome to the Jester Section Hiker podcast. We are recording episode number 156, and tonight we are going to take a little trip over to Shenandoah National Park, which is in the northern end of Virginia on the Appalachian Trail, or I should say a little over 100 miles of the Appalachian Trail goes through the Shenandoah National Park. I'm excited to be here. This is the third episode in the Appalachian Trail Section Hiker series. And I should mention, this is the first episode that we are producing the show here on the Jester Wallace Productions YouTube channel. And I see Austin here. The Wallace part of Jester Wallace Productions is here in the chat. And we've got a few people here in the chat this evening. We've got Roger from over at Take a Hike Fitness. Hey, Roger, what is happening? We've got Skunk Ape from the Hammock Hangers podcast. Hey, Skunk Ape. Skunk Ape had an interesting thing happen to him this afternoon. He lives in Florida, but they had like an ice storm. I'm not sure what happened there, but Skunk Ape, fill us in the chat what happened. Austin, my friend and business partner, he is here in the chat as well. And Stella, you guys, she says, I'm going to put this up here, let's go Shenandoahs. And Ina, tried and true. Ina is here in the chat. Finally Tuesday, Ina says. Great to see you, Ina. Really appreciate you being here. Hope all is going well in your neck of the woods. And you guys, I kind of want to start off the episode, a couple things before we get to our agenda for making sure you have an awesome section hike through the Shenandoah National Park. I want to recognize some of you guys. I don't know, there has been an influx of emails, direct messages on Instagram, and some recent 5-star reviews for the Jester Section Hiker podcast. And you guys, I am getting really fancy with this eCam software, and I want to pull a couple things up because as promised, over the last few episodes, I would not be doing this if it was not for you, the listeners, and for everybody joining over. So I want to give a shout out to this individual who gave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. I haven't gotten a 5-star review in a couple months, but they said, always seem to learn something new and always enjoy the humor. Try to keep it humorous and keep up the good work. So appreciate that. And it looks like that came from, who knows, NMF-5. So thank you, NMF-5. I truly appreciate that. And we got another Apple review. And you guys, this is a review that gives me encouragement and hope after 4 years of doing this podcast that is very niche. Because it is focused on all the section hikers that are out there. And I am truly convinced that there are more section hikers than there are through hikers. But this gentleman says, or lady, not sure, an amazing hiking podcast. It is great to have a podcast focused on section hiking. Although I have been a scoutmaster and led backpacking trips, I learned something on every episode. Julie and her guests make me laugh, challenge me to think, and impart wisdom. Keep up the great show. And that looks like it was by Old Man Airborne Runner. Appreciate the 5-star review. And you guys, like I said, the reason I'm putting this out there and the reason that I am sharing, I'm getting this information because it's a way for us to stay in contact with each other. And I've got to throw this up here. And I know Sridhar, or Shri, as he told me to call him when he was on my podcast, there is not a week that goes by that he does not reach out to me on Instagram and I think he reached out to me when the Georgia Appalachian Trail section hiker episode came out. And one of the things I wanted to point out in this DM is Shri says, unlike most hikers who go northbound, southbound, or flip flop, I decided to start my section hiking in my home state of Maryland and hike toward both end points. Essentially, I'm expanding the trail from the inside out. So we could call this an inside out hike. So you heard it here first on the Jester Section Hiker podcast. There is now a 4th edition to a hike. There's a northbound hike. There's a southbound hike. There's a flip-flop. And now officially Sridhar is doing the inside out hike. And you guys, in the description below, Shri has started a blog about his Appalachian Trail section hiking. And I want you guys to check it out and go over and give Shri a follow. He's got a long-term plan to complete the Appalachian Trail. And Shri, we are cheering you on. And last but not least, I got a random email a couple weeks ago, and I want to give a shout out to, I believe her name is Candy Kemp, from Turtle to Goat Creations. She is on Facebook. She has a Facebook page, Turtle to Goat. Apparently that's another word that's hard for me to say, and I know Skunk Ape is going to laugh about that. Turtle to Goat Creations. She reached out to me, and she's going to send me something, and she says that I'm going to love it. And the reason that she's doing that is she is enjoying the new series, the section hiking, the Appalachian Trail series. And she plans to start with the approach trail at the hike in. And she says she's 52, so it'll be quite a while before she finishes out. But you know what? It doesn't matter. You're starting. And that is what it's all about. That's what this podcast is all about, is getting individuals out on the trail, starting their hikes. And it doesn't matter how long you take, and it doesn't matter if you finish. For those of you that are with me in the chat, put how long it took you to finish, put what you're doing, what you're up to. Let us know, and I'll give you a shout out here live on the show. And before we get started, last but not least, if you guys have been watching us over on the Beyond the Trail podcast, which is another podcast that we have now on our Jester Wallace Productions channel, you will know that Hiker Metals is a partner with us over on the channel, and they are partnering with us on these particular episodes about learning how to section hike in particular areas along the Appalachian Trail. And you guys have heard me say it before. You can go to hikermetals.com. There is a discount code, a 20% off discount code on your order. And you guys, I'm going to show you a medal real quick in honor of the Friends of the Mountains to Sea Trail. It is their annual gathering this weekend. And Austin, who is here in the chat, we will both be there. And this is the Hiker Medals for the Mountains of Sea Trail. It is awesome. It's amazing. And you guys, Wim sent me this when he first made this medal. And my trail name is on the back. And I love it. So give Wim some love over at hikermetals.com. And you guys, we are going to go ahead and get started. Let me mention this. Ina, she has been a dreamer since 2017. So Ina, nothing wrong with being a dreamer and nothing wrong with making it happen. And you are certainly out in the Appalachian Trail community. So I think that is awesome. And Stella put a couple turtles up there. I'm not sure what that means. I guess she's taking the turtle route. You guys, I cannot say turtle for some reason. So yeah. Let's go ahead and get started on this. And if you guys have listened to the prior episodes, you know 100% that you are going to school with Jester right now. And we're going to be hitting the Shenandoahs. And you know what I'm pulling up for those of you that are listening to the audio version of the show. I am pulling up the checklist that we're going to use to go over. Right now, I've got our tools for success. And you guys, I went over these in the very original episode, which is episode number 154. So I'm not going to go into huge detail when it comes to our tools for success. But these are 5 things that have helped me be very, very successful when it comes to section hiking the Appalachian Trail. And that is the AT Guide, the Far Out app, formerly known as Gut Hook. I do utilize quite a bit the ATC website, and I'm going to show you guys I utilized it this evening. And there is new information out there for section hikers on registering for your hikes along the Appalachian Trail. And then the last tool that I utilize quite a bit is over on the ATC website. They have a particular section where they have up-to-date updates on everything going on the Appalachian Trail. And those are the tools for success that no matter what section you are hiking on the trail, these are going to help you section hike. They're going to help you plan, and they're going to help you get yourself organized before you head out for your trip. And you guys, I'm going to take a sip here. It is a school evening, so I am drinking boring Sprite Zero. I'm going to take a sip before we officially get started here. Let's see. Roger, who is in the chat, says he's 60 and he's doing his first AT section hike of Maryland and West Virginia. And he's even put the dates on here, you guys. We got to cheer him on. June 10th through the 14th. The Connecticut in the fall, the Connecticut section in the fall, and the Shenandoah section next year. So Roger, we're going to see you in this episode, and we're going to see you next week because we're going to cover Connecticut next week. And so Roger and Ina, it's time to get out there and put boots on the ground. And there's no better place, you guys. I truly, truly love the Shenandoah National Park, and specifically going through the Appalachian Trail through the Shenandoah National Park. It is some of the best trail, in my opinion. Now, all of this is my opinion on the entire AT. And you guys, I've gone through the Shenandoahs a couple times, and I don't know why, but I've always had this crazy idea that I want to yo-yo Shenandoah National Park, which means I want to go north through the park on the AT, and then I want to turn around and go south back through the park. And that is on my to-do list. Hey, Skunk, if you're still in the chat, maybe you'll do that with me. And we will go through the park. Or Austin, maybe I can convince you to do that with me as well. So let's go ahead and get rolling. We've got a lot to cover this evening. As we go, you guys, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and I will address those as we go. And hopefully I will answer those as we go along. And okay, so Skunk says, let's do it. So Skunk, you and we've got the Foothills Trail that we have to do. We also have to yo-yo the Shenandoah National Park. Oh, Austin, yes, I'm calling you out. Maybe you'll join Skunk and I. Maybe you won't. I don't know. Maybe you will aqua blaze the Shenandoah National Park, which we're getting ready to talk about here in a little bit. I support the decision for cookies. Okay, there must be something about cookies on here I'm not seeing. But anyway, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. There are several things that we're going to go over this evening. So get out your pens and paper and pencils, and let's get to it. And the first thing that we are going to talk about are permits. So I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you guys. I have never paid for a permit going through the Shenandoah National Park. And I got concerned when I started doing my homework. Not concerned, but I thought, ooh, did I do something wrong? Have I not done something that I'm supposed to do? Because as I was looking, I always look on the National Park websites, and you guys, right now, I am on the National Park Service website for Shenandoah National Park, and I wanted to make sure I was up to date on whether or not you had to have a permit to go through the Shenandoah National Park. And as I was reading, it looked like, I should say, it says you are required to pay an entrance fee in order to access Shenandoah National Park, whether you're driving on Skyline Drive or hiking in from the boundary. So this confused me a little bit. So I went to where it has entrance passes here, and it says a vehicle is $30 to go through the park for 7 days. If you're coming through on a motorcycle, it's got the price. And then there's a little part here that confused me and where my concern came in. It says Shenandoah entrance pass, individual person, $15. Entry for a walk-up or a bicycle, continues on to say, includes entering the park by all means other than private, non-commercial vehicle, a family traveling together, so on and so forth. And I thought, oh my God, I have never paid anything to go through Shenandoah National Park. And the way that the permit system works, and for this episode and like all the other episodes prior to this one, we will consider that we are talking about going northbound through the park. So you're on the Appalachian Trail and you hit the Rockfish Gap area, and there's a big kiosk there at Rockfish Gap. And I believe you go in, it might be 100, 200 yards, and you will walk by another kiosk, and it does have permit information there. You can fill out a permit, and then they have a permit box there, and you can continue your way on through the park. And that is how I have always done it. Fill out the permit, put it in the box so the park rangers know that you are in the park, a potential itinerary of going through the park. And then you put the second half of your permit when you're exiting the park, almost 100 miles later, and then the rangers know that you are out of the park. But when I saw that about the $15, it made me take another look. So I went back to the ATC website, which I have pulled up here now. And there is information about Shenandoah National Park, and it has specific permit information. And it says Shenandoah National Park, Virginia, required for backcountry camping, no fee. But then you go a little bit further, and I was like, well, that's kind of confusing. So I scrolled down a little bit further, and there are specifics. Where is it? There are specifics on this website where it says no fee required for AT hikers going through the park. It did not specify through hiker versus day hiker versus slack packer versus section hiker. Oh, here it is. Shenandoah National Park. It says there is no entry fee for entering the park on foot on the Appalachian Trail. So that answers that question, and I feel a little bit better because I have never paid a fee to go through the park. So if you are entering the park on the AT, walking, entering the park, there is no fee, but they do want you to fill out just a regular permit. You drop it in the box, and then you go on your merry way to having an amazing time in the Shenandoah National Park. So that covers permits, and there are 2 permit boxes. There is one at the southern entrance, and then there is one at the northern entrance, and it is pretty much set up like we talked about in episode number 155, going through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. You fill it out. You kind of give your itinerary. That way the rangers know, you guys, there could be fires, there could be road closures, there could be particular things that happen in the park. And they just kind of want to have an idea who is hiking on the AT through the park. So you drop your permit box in there, and away you go. Oh, I know. I see your questions. She says, is that permit info on far out or AWOL? It is an AWOL. I did double check right before this episode, but what AWOL does, or the AT guide, which is AWOL, it says to check the Shenandoah National Park website for campsites, regulations, and fees. So there is a notation on AWOL. I did not see anything on Far Out, except comments that you were entering Shenandoah National Park. But when you walk in from Rockfish Gap, you cannot miss that kiosk. It's huge. And there are 3-ply permits that you fill out. You fill it out. You keep 2. You put 1 in the box. You go through the park, and when you end, you put the second one in the box as you're heading out. That way, they know you have exited the park. It looks like Skunk may have looked on Far Out for me. He says all Far Out says is that hikers must fill out a permit and attach their pack before continuing. So that might even be new. Attach it to your pack. I always just put it in my pack. So no big deal on that. Thank you guys. Thanks for the update on that. It gets kind of tricky, you guys, when it comes to permits. And that just goes back to looking specifically at the ATC website as you are planning your section hike, because things can change. Things can go all kinds of different ways, and you want to make sure that you are up to date. And I'm specifically talking about section hiking because things can change depending on how you are actually going to go through the park. And that is what I want to talk about next, because you guys, the park, it's a 108-mile section of the Appalachian Trail. And there is a difference in going through the park as a through hiker versus a section hiker who just shows up and really hasn't been hiking. Maybe you've been training at home. Most of the AT through hikers, by the time they get to Shenandoah, they are, or I should call it, the shanties. So by the time the AT through hikers get to the shanties, you guys, these guys are doing 20, 25 miles a day. And they're going through the park in 4 or 5 days. Versus a section hiker who, 100 miles, that could take you a week. It could take you 8 days. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about that is next on the agenda. Is the question is, how will you hike this 108-mile section? It's actually 107.8 miles. So I rounded up to 108. And you guys, there's so many ways to go through the park. As a section hiker, you can certainly backpack the entire 100-mile section. You can certainly day hike or slack pack the 108-mile section. It is totally possible, because you guys, Skyline Drive, I don't know how many times, I am sure it is in Far Out or AWOL. I did not look this up. Skyline Drive and the vehicle and trailhead access through the Shenandoah National Park. You're going to cross Skyline Drive, I would say 25, 30, if not more than that times in that 100-mile section or 108-mile section. And before you go on your section hike, you can also consider the Shenandoah National Park. Do you have family that wants to go with you? Do you have family that wants to camp out while you're hiking? Do you have family that wants to enjoy the park while you're out hiking your section? And you guys, this is all doable because of Skyline Drive. So if I am a section hiker right now and I have never been through the park, you got some decisions to make. So am I going to backpack? Do I want to backpack a couple days and then get picked up by a hostel? What do I want to do? So I'm hoping with the next sections that I'm going to go over, I'll help you answer some of those questions. So I spoke of Skyline Drive briefly, and you guys, just to drive Skyline Drive is absolutely incredible. There are so many what you call pullouts, I guess, along Skyline Drive with beautiful, amazing views. And one of the things I like to do, and I've done this a couple times, is actually drive Skyline Drive before I head out on my section hike. For a couple reasons. Selfishly, I want to go through the park and see all, the beautiful pullouts. And secondly, it allows me to see how many times the AT crosses Skyline Drive. It allows me to have out my AT guide and far out and kind of plan my trip. It allows me to actually see the trailheads. Would this be a good trailhead to park my car? Would this be a good trailhead to have my family member pick me up? So just selfishly, I love driving through the park. Plus, it gets me all amped up. Like, I get fired up to hike. I start seeing those white blazes of the Appalachian Trail, and I get all fired up. And it gives me, I don't know, it just gives me a fire burning inside my chest. Like, okay, I've driven the park. Now I want to start hiking. So it allows you to kind of see what you are going to be doing. And that depends on, actually, if you're by yourself and you're going to be backpacking the park, one of the things you can think about is driving north through the park and parking your car at one of the hostels, and then having one of the hostels shuttle you back down to the southern end. And then, like we always say, in every single one of these episodes, always, always, always hike to your car. Don't let anybody convince you of that otherwise. So that is my recommendation for Skyline Drive. I know it's going to cost you $30 to drive your vehicle through there. But you guys, most of you are outdoor enthusiasts, and you probably have an annual park pass anyway. So that is one of my recommendations, is enjoy Skyline Drive, either before, which is my preference because it really gets me pumped up and ready to hike, or B, something to look forward to after your hike. You know, you've hiked through the park, you've crossed Skyline Drive, God knows how many times, and then you're going to enjoy yourself and drive south back down through the park. So that is my recommendation. As I'm looking here on our itinerary and our evening class with Jester, I should also say, you guys, in the description below, the itinerary is free for you all to look at. You can pull it up. It is on a Google Drive. I've given open access for you guys to have this information. You can make notes. You can print it. All the links that I'm talking about here on the episode are hyperlinked, so you have access to that as well. And again, as we go through the episode, I'm looking here in the chat, and we're getting ready to talk about this. Skunk Ape says, Waysides for breakfast and Waysides for lunch. Yep, we're getting ready to talk about that. And Stella says, amazing sunrises and sunsets all along Skyline Drive. And you guys, she is not kidding. If you can hit the park when it's not raining, of course, on your drive, either all the way home or at the beginning before you start hiking. Yeah, you guys, I want to go right now. I mean, literally, if I didn't have to get up and go see high school students tomorrow, I'm thinking about going to Shenandoah National Park. And Ina has commented important logistics. So thank you, Ina, for that. And I am going to pause 1 second because, you guys, me as a talking head, as Austin says on these episodes, I'm getting thirsty tonight. So as we are moving along here, so the shelters in the Shenandoah National Park, and I forgot about this. So as I was looking on the AWOL guide or the AT guide, the Shenandoah National Park actually calls the shelters huts. So they actually have a hut system, but they're good old-fashioned AT three-sided shelters. And I was looking in the book again and studying on Far Out. And you guys, the shelters, if you're backpacking, the shelters are really, really decently distanced apart. So some of them are 10 miles apart, 12 miles apart. There's not one section when you go through the Shenandoah National Park where you're going to have to worry about doing an 18-mile day and a 10-mile day. They are very, very, very evenly spread out. And one of the things, I don't know where it's at on my checklist. So as you're planning, if you are planning to backpack the entire park, you are not going to have an issue with huts, camping overnight. There is a lot of space at these shelters to set up tents. You have a lot of space to set up hammocks, good trees. And you guys, a lot of the shelters, as you're walking through Shenandoah National Park, the AT actually goes right by the shelters. So it is amazingly set up for first-time hikers as well, I think. If you're cutting your teeth on section hiking and you want to get out and do a fairly, mild terrain, the Shenandoahs are where it's at. You're not going to go wrong. So those are the huts. And if you're using the AT guide, you guys, they are set up, and we've gone over this before. They're evenly spaced apart. And one of the things I wanted to touch on, the Shenandoah National Park, this is huge, and it's becoming more and more of an issue along the Appalachian Trail, bears. And I just want to emphasize that the ATC, at this point, they do recommend that you carry a bear container all the way up the trail. But I wanted to mention in the Shenandoah National Park that a bear container is not required. And I should say a bear container is not required all the way up the Appalachian Trail, just in some particular areas, specifically in Georgia that we talked about in episode number 154, and what you need to do with that, and kind of how you can either A, carry a bear container for a short amount of time, or B, walk right through the required bear container area, but not required in Shenandoah National Park. And the really cool thing about the huts is they have these pole systems, and some of the huts do have bear boxes, but they actually have pole systems, kind of like, I've never seen them before, except on the Wonderland Trail. It's actually just a pole, and it has prongs at the end of the pole. They're a certain height. And there's actually, let me switch this back so you guys can see what I'm doing. And there's actually, I'm going to call it a stick, but it's another pole that hangs off of the main pole. So you take this pole down, you put your bear bag on the end of it, and then you hoist your bear bag up to the top of these prongs that are sticking out of this main pole. And that in and of itself, if you're at a hut in the evening, is fun to watch people do, because it is hilarious how long it takes people to get their bear bags up on those poles, myself included. One night we were out, and you guys, I could not for the life of me hold my arms steady because my bear bag had so much food in it to get that up there. So it could be quite the entertainment for the evening. So keep that in mind. You do not need a bear container. At each shelter, you're going to have the bear boxes or the bear poles. So don't worry about that. Just carry your good old regular food bag. And you guys, we are going to move on to probably my favorite part of the Shenandoah National Park: the campsites and the Waysides. Skunk Ape mentioned the Waysides earlier. And you guys, I'm serious when I say this. And let me be clear. You can hike the entire Shenandoah National Park. You can backpack the entire Shenandoah National Park and never have to go outside of the park boundary for a resupply, because you guys, these campgrounds, they have camp stores. The AT walks right by. So the majority of these camp stores or waysides, there's camp stores and waysides, and you literally see something almost every day. So technically, if I was going to backpack, solo backpack, the Shenandoahs right now, Skunk Ape, get ready. We're going to have somebody drop us off at Rockfish Gap, and we're going to go out with 2 days of food. That's it. And we're going to resupply at the waysides. And we're going to eat a lot of really good food because you guys, these waysides, they have grills. And these campsites have great campsites. And I want to show you what and how this works. So how these campsites and how these waysides work. So you guys, I'm back on the Shenandoah National Park website. And if you go on this website, you can see here food, lodging, and other services. And along the names of the waysides will give you the mileage of where these are at along Skyline Drive, which pretty much equals where the AT is going through Shenandoah National Park. The one thing I do want to note is the Loft Mountain Camp Store, and then you'll see Loft Mountain Wayside, Lewis Mountain Cabins. The AT walks right by this stuff. And what I want to note is you'll see Loft Mountain Camp Store at mile 79.5. So if you are hiking north, you're actually starting at mile 100 of Skyline Drive. So let me say that again. If you're hiking north, the Skyline Drive mileage is mile marker, or 100 or what have you. So when you're looking at these mileages, what I want to note is compare where you're at in the AT guide and what you want to do. So as you can see on here, there's a camp store at mile 79.5. There's another camp store at mile 57.5. There's another wayside. And you guys, waysides equal food. Let me emphasize that again. Waysides equal food. Then you have Big Meadows Lodge at mile 51.2. These Skyland Stables, make a note right now in your book, you will walk directly by Skyland Stables. And then you're going to hit Skyland. And you guys, this is like the fine dining of Shenandoah National Park. When you go in there as a hiker, you're going to feel like, oh my God, I stink, whatever. But they are so friendly to hikers. And I 100% think you should go in there and have a meal and work your itinerary around Skyland. And then Elk Wallow Wayside, literally you see Elk Wallow Wayside as you are walking along the trail. I mean, it is incredible. We got some notes here. Hey, Cicada Appreciation Society. Cicada says, Shenandoah will be great for taking my kids on a multi-night trip. Last year we did Grayson Highlands. 100%. Shenandoah is a playground for kids. And with the waysides, so that's the waysides, you guys. You're going to go every day or basically if you're backpacking, every other day, you're going to see a wayside. You're going to get a hamburger. You're going to get French fries. And correct me if I'm wrong, Skunk Ape, I am pretty sure the waysides in Shenandoah National Park are known for their blueberry shakes. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right, you guys, those are the waysides. And here you have campgrounds. Okay, so campgrounds are in addition to the shelters or the huts. So the campgrounds are part of Shenandoah National Park. And let's see, the first day, the fourth day, so you'll walk by or around or near a campground every other day, just like you will the waysides. So technically, if you're backpacking and you don't want to deal with the shelters and you want your own campsite, you can set up your campsites every other day and actually stay in the park campgrounds. And a lot of people do that. Jester does that. I love those campgrounds. They have nice sites for section hikers, through hikers, AT hikers. You guys, I have stayed at every single one of them. So there's Matthews Arm, which is on the northern end of the park. You got to go to Big Meadows. It's probably the largest campground in Shenandoah National Park. You've got Lewis Mountain. You've got Loft Mountain. I have not stayed at Dundo, which is a group campground. But you guys, you can see here on the park website, these Waysides where you're going to get great food every day. And the campgrounds coincide together. So this is another reason that as you're planning your trip through the Shenandoahs, of driving the park before you actually start hiking, because you'll see the Waysides, you'll see the signs to the campgrounds, and you will become familiar with, what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be hiking through. And I promise you, carrying more than 2 days of food through the Shenandoahs will be way too much. And you guys, I totally forgot about this. Stella has reminded me, and she's absolutely right. At a lot of the campgrounds, at a lot of the Waysides, you can get a shower. You can do laundry. I mean, I ain't doing laundry, but if you wanted to, and they are coin operated, but at the camp store, you could just go in, take a couple bucks, and the showers are nice. I'm going to look up and see which there is the showers at, the showers at Loft Mountain Camp Store look like you're going into a multi-million-dollar home. I mean, they're granite, they're clean. I mean, it's like they look better than the shower at my house, and I'm not kidding. Not cleanliness-wise, I should say that, but you guys, they're incredible, and you can go in there and get cleaned up after being out 20 miles on the trail. And continue on with your hike. You can go over to the Wayside, which is directly right there. And then you can stay at the campground. So as you can tell, you guys, there are a ton of options as you are going through Shenandoah National Park, the campgrounds, the Waysides. The biggest decision you have to make as someone going through Shenandoah National Park is how you are going to hike through the park. And that's probably one of the reasons that I like going through the park more than once, because there's so many ways to see the park. And you could backpack, you can slack pack, you can have your family come. Like Cicada said, he wants to take his kids there. It's easily accessible for you to day hike through the park, spend the night in the campground with your family, and hike pretty much every day, and get through the park and have a great time. And I think that's one of the reasons I want to eventually yo-yo the park, because you can hike it north one way and turn around and hike south a completely different way and have a totally different experience. So I hope I am getting you all pumped up to head out to the Shenandoah National Park. And one of the things I also want to cover, and I think I talked about this briefly, is your vehicle placement. And this coincides with the hostels. And you guys, I've got 3 different hostels on this checklist. And 3 different outfitters. It looks like I have 4, but there's only 3. And the hostels that I have on here that you should 100% utilize to help you plan your trip, and they go from south to north. So the first hostel that is right there in Waynesboro, right there at Rockfish Gap, is Stanimals 828. And I have actually utilized Stanimals for shuttle services. I've not stayed at Stanimals, but I've been to Stanimals. It's a great hostel, great place to stay, very hiker friendly. And that is at the southern entrance, so you can utilize them. There is a new hostel that I have not been to called Open Arms Hostel, which is in a town called Luray, Virginia, or Luray. And you guys, it is perfectly set up. It is almost in the middle. It is at mile like 51 or 52 of your hike if you're going north. And that means you can get picked up, get out of the park. And Luray also has an outfitter. So say something broke on you and you needed to get to an outfitter. You can notice down under outfitters, they have an outfitter there called Appalachian Trail Outfitters. Waynesboro also has an outfitter, Rockfish Gap Outfitters. And on the northern end of the park, I'm excited about this hostel, you guys. I just found this one the other day, and I love the name, Stumble In. And it is actually in Front Royal. And you guys, Front Royal needed a hostel. So what a perfect place. And Front Royal also has an outfitter called Mountain Trails. So again, you could not be more perfectly set up between the Waysides, the campgrounds, the hostels, the outfitters. It just makes going through the ease of going through the Shenandoahs that much better. And I encourage all of you to check out Stanimals. I've heard awesome things about Open Arms. And if anybody knows anybody that has been to Stumble In, let me know in the chat, you guys. I am excited about that place. Their website, here, let's pull it up. Their website looks great. I mean, look at that place. It's awesome. And I just look way too big in this picture here. So yeah. So they've got resupply, welcome to Stumble In. And I mean, I just think the place looks great. They do have, let's see, shuttles and a slack pack. So look at that van. They call their van Meet Big Blue. So for those of you that are interested in shuttling or slack packing, and here's the other thing that I didn't mention that is definitely 100% worth mentioning is if you don't want to pay the fee to drive through the park, you could actually just drive directly to the hostel and let them drive through the park, because all the hostels are going to have, National Park Pass, all that wonderful stuff. It actually, on the ATC website, they encourage, where'd I go? They encourage you to do that. So you guys, the more and more that we go through this, it's like there's just so many options. And I'm excited because a couple of these hostels I have not been to. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys about this place, the name has changed a couple times. If I could pull it up here. This place, when you finish your hike, so say you hike northbound through the park, and you guys know how it is. Well, I mean, you've been stuffing yourself at the Waysides, and you've been staying at the campgrounds, and you've been taking showers all the way through the park. But this place, the Vibrisa Beer Kitchen, is actually right outside the park in Front Royal. And they have amazing food. You can get drinks. But they also have this place inside there. I don't think I'm in the right place. Oh, there it is. It's called Base Camp Front Royal. And at the end of your trip, Skunk Ape, you and I are going to be doing this because we're going to be yo-yoing the park. You can go in. You can get something to eat. You can do laundry. They've got showers. And you guys, I've been here. It's an amazing place. And right outside this place is an outfitter. And I don't know the name of the bakery, but right next door to this place, you guys, the croissants and the sweets at this bakery. I mean, you can pretty much smell it when you're in the base camp little shop there doing your laundry. So guess what? You walk over and you get a huge old honey bun or whatever after you've eaten your lunch. So yeah, you guys, there is all kinds of stuff. I mean, I can't even cover everything you can do on your section hike of the Shenandoah National Park. because the hiking is amazing. And I will say, we talked about this earlier, it is a thru hiker's dream when they get to Shenandoah National Park because number one, they have their trail legs. Number two, they've built themselves up to do 20, 25 miles a day or whatever they're going to do. But a section hiker, you guys got to be careful because there's still hills in the Shenandoah National Park. There's a lot of hills in Shenandoah National Park. And one of the things that I wanted to cover is just be careful. Don't plan your itinerary for 20-mile days. I mean, that you're just setting yourself up for disaster, especially if you're going to have your family and you're going to have your kids. Give yourself a break and give yourself some time. There's plenty to see. There's plenty to do. Oh, Stella looked up the bakery. It is the Down Home Country Bakery. Best cinnamon rolls. All right, mark this on the list. I will add it to the itinerary or the checklist. The Down Home Country Bakery, the best cinnamon rolls. Maybe they'll sponsor the podcast. Who knows? So anyway, you guys, as I am starting to wrap up here, and close out, I wanted to let you guys know, first of all, if you have any questions, if you're live here in the chat, put them in the chat. Let me know what you think about this episode, if I covered everything that you wanted to hear. And if you are enjoying the show, go over and give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We would truly appreciate it. And before we close out, I want to talk about additional highlights. And the highlights for me in the Shenandoah National Park have always been the animals. Like the Smokies, I have never gone through the Shenandoah National Park without seeing bears. I'm not kidding you guys. Each time I've been there, it's almost funny because the last time we went through there, I think it was 2019 or 2020, I can't remember. I saw a bear every day. And I was almost to the point where, if something shook right beside me, I was like, well, there we go, another bear. But the cool thing is they run away from you. They definitely run away from you. But what don't run away from you in the Shenandoah National Park are the deer. There are deer everywhere. They're walking on the trail and they don't care if you're there or not, but you just walk right by them. And the animals are the highlight for me. You guys, as you're walking along, I'm getting like hiker fever. That's what I'm going to call it. I got hiker fever. I'm pumping my own self up to go through the Shenandoah National Park. So definitely the highlights are the animals. Definitely tons of squirrels, tons of deer, tons of wildlife, tons of birds. I wish I knew more about birds and the sounds because you guys, the sounds of the birds in the Shenandoah National Park are phenomenal. And yeah, you guys, I have totally pumped myself up to go back through the park. So Skunk Ape in Austin, you guys need to get ready. One thing I wanted to mention, I shouldn't say a lot. It's an option. So there is this thing. I don't know if it's a thru hiker thing. I don't know. I think it is a thru hiker thing. So there's a term out there called aqua blazing. And you can aqua blaze the Shenandoah National Park. And the outfitters that are mentioned in the checklist will help you do that. And what aqua blazing is, pretty much means you're not going to hike through the Shenandoah National Park on the actual Appalachian Trail. You are going to utilize an outfitter and you are going to go and kayak on the Shenandoah River up, I think it's the Shenandoah. It makes sense. It's the Shenandoah River, right? From the Rockfish Gap area up to somewhere near Front Royal. I have never done that. I've thought about it, but you guys, if I'm going to the Shenandoah National Park, I'm hiking. But aqua blazing is an option. And if you are a kayaker, it is certainly an option. And any one of those outfitters in the checklist will be able to help you out with that. So some thru hikers out there, they actually skip the trail, and they go and they aqua blaze through the Shenandoah National Park. And then the last item on the checklist, there is some more terminology called yellow blazing. And yellow blazing is a term specifically on the Appalachian Trail. Not heard a lot of people talk about it on other trails, but yellow blazing is when you follow the yellow line down the middle of the road and you actually walk the road instead of hiking the trail. And a lot of yellow blazing goes on in Shenandoah National Park. Jester does not yellow blaze unless, it's part of the trail. But a lot of hikers will walk the road in Shenandoah National Park instead of being on the trail. And you guys, I don't know why. So if there's anybody in the chat that would tell me why you would want to walk the road versus being on the AT. Now, somebody is going to say, well, you can go to the views. That's true. But if your purpose is to complete the Appalachian Trail, I would think you would want to stay on the AT. That's just Jester's opinion, nobody else's opinion. But, I see a comment here in the chat that says, Cicada says, hike and aqua blaze yo-yo would be amazing. Now that is a good idea. So that would get me fired up to kayak the Shenandoah River. Hike the AT through the park, and then aqua blaze. All right, Skunk, I know Austin would be up for that. Because anytime he can go kayaking, I think he's in. So you guys, I want to go ahead and wrap up. The last thing on our checklist, of course, and always, Ina says that she's in on that. That is awesome. You can spend some time. I've got information out there about hiker safety, the 10 essentials. I've got several gear lists out there, you guys. And if you want more information about that, you can check that out on the checklist. And Skunk Ape says, yellow blazing is hitching a ride to skip a section. Well, that is true. But in the Shenandoahs, I'm telling you, I've seen it. I have seen through hikers out there. Oh, I don't feel like I could do more miles on the road. I don't feel like being on trail. So I guess it's both. So, and I've seen through hikers do both, and I don't know why. But Ina says that she's in on the aqua blazing trip. So that is awesome. You know what? Maybe we need to plan something like that. That would be a lot of fun. And Stella says now Austin is in. So you guys, I hope this has been an informative episode. This is the third episode in the series. So if you want to check out the other episodes that are already out there on Jester Wallace Productions, you can check out Hiking Georgia, Section Hiking Georgia, episode 154. Episode 155 is Section Hiking the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, the AT through the park. And then this episode in our series, having a lot of fun in the Shenandoahs. And next Tuesday, go ahead and mark your calendars. Next Tuesday, May 2nd, 8 o'clock, we are going to be covering Connecticut and section hiking through Connecticut. You guys, Connecticut is a lot of fun. It's a short, like 50 or 52 mile section, but there is a lot to cover and how you can get that done. And sandwich, I'll give you guys a clue. We're going to talk about some sandwich shops you can get to. We're going to talk about some pizza that you can get to. And we're going to talk about hitchhiking in Connecticut. So there you go. Hey, Chris. Oh, wait a minute. Chris, Alpha Gal says, hello from Virginia on the AT. Okay, Alpha Gal, we are all jealous. We are all jealous. And in honor of you being on here, I've got something for you. Looky here. Look at these Durston poles. I thought you might hop on here, and I know Austin's on here. I'm going to go ahead and call Austin out. I don't know if he's still here. When we got off our podcast the other night, guess who bought poles and already has them? Yep, that's right, Austin. So Austin now owns Durston poles. So Chris, sounds like you're having an amazing hike, and hope you enjoyed that pizza I saw a picture of on Instagram. Roger says he'll be finding out how to give a 5-star review. Awesome. And Roger, you can help us out right now by giving us a thumbs up. And you could go over on Apple Podcast and give a 5-star review. And Chris, yep, got the polls. Hawk, you missed it. We talked all about Shenandoah National Park, all the waysides, all the campgrounds, all the amazing time that you can have in the park. And Alpha Gal says, got 51 miles. Got 51 miles and hood so far. 51 miles on mine and hood so far. Okay, maybe I missed that. So anyway, you guys, it's been an amazing episode. Again, I have gone over my time limit. I don't know what happens. I always say I'm going to stay under an hour, but that never, ever happens. So you guys, big thumbs up. As always, appreciate you all being here. I really, really enjoy doing these live episodes. Thanks for coming over to Jester Wallace Productions, where you can see the live episode of Jester's Section Hiker podcast. You can also join us on Beyond the Trail podcast, where Austin and I both host that show. And in fact, we have a show coming up this Thursday with Nancy East at 8 o'clock. So in 2 days, you can join us again for the Beyond the Trail podcast. And you guys, I'm an educator, and that means I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So as always, you guys, thanks for listening. Be safe out there, everybody, and happy section hiking.